Ever heard of a stock that could turn a janitor into a millionaire overnight? Sounds like a modern crypto story, right? But this happened 300 years ago, and it wasn't a digital coin. It was a company that promised riches beyond imagination from a land of gold and silver. This is the incredible and cautionary tale of the South Sea Bubble, the scam that fooled an entire nation, from the common folk all the way to the King of England himself. So, let's rewind to 1711. Great Britain was in a tough spot. It had just fought a long, expensive war and was drowning in nearly £10 million of national debt. That's billions in today's money. The government was desperate for a solution. Enter two cunning businessmen, Robert Holly and John Blunt. They came up with a brilliant idea. They would create a new company, the South Sea Company, which would take on all of Britain's debt. In exchange for this massive favour, the government would give the South Sea Company a monopoly on all trade with the Spanish colonies in South America, the South Seas. The public imagination went wild. Everyone believed these lands were overflowing with gold, silver, and unimaginable treasures. The company's sales pitch was simple: invest in us, and we'll bring back shiploads of wealth from the New World. Everyone would get rich. The hype machine went into overdrive. The company spread rumors of untold fortunes and painted a dazzling picture of its future prospects. And people bought it, hook, line, and sinker. The price of South Sea Company shares began to climb. In January 1720, a single share was worth about £128. By March, it had more than doubled to £330. The public was gripped by a frenzy of speculation. People from all walks of life, dukes, merchants, farmers, even servants, scrambled to buy shares. They sold their homes, emptied their life savings, and borrowed heavily, all to get a piece of the action. Stories abounded of ordinary people becoming fabulously wealthy in a matter of weeks. The atmosphere was electric. This wasn't just investing. It was the national obsession. To keep the momentum going, the company did something audacious. They started lending people money to buy their own shares. Think about that. They were essentially creating artificial demand, pumping up their own stock price with borrowed money. They also offered installment plans, making it even easier for people with little capital to jump on the bandwagon. By May, the share price hit an astonishing £550. The craze was so intense that other, completely absurd bubble companies started popping up, promising to fund everything from a wheel for perpetual motion to an undertaking of great advantage. But nobody to know what it is. People were so desperate to get rich quick that they threw their money at anything. By the peak in August 1720, a single share of the South Sea Company was trading for over £1,000, an almost tenfold increase in just 8 months. London was a city of paper millionaires. But here's the crazy part. Throughout this entire period, the South Sea Company had done almost no actual trading with South America. Its fleet was small, and its access to the colonies was severely restricted by Spain. The entire valuation was built on pure hype and speculation. It was a house of cards, and it was about to come crashing down. Even the most brilliant minds were caught in the mania. Sir Isaac Newton, the genius who discovered gravity, was an early investor. He made a handsome profit and cashed out, wisely declaring, "I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people." But as the price continued to soar, he couldn't resist the temptation. FOMO, the fear of missing out, got the better of him. He jumped back in at the very top of the market and ended up losing a fortune around £20,000, which would be millions today. If it could happen to Newton, it could happen to anyone. The crash began in late summer. Some of the insiders, the very people who started the company, knew the game was up. They quietly began selling their shares, taking their massive profits. As more and more shares flooded the market, the price began to waver. Panic set in. The same people who had desperately bought shares just weeks before were now frantically trying to sell them. But there were no buyers. Everyone was selling. the fall was as swift and brutal as the rise. By September, the share price had collapsed back to £300. By December, it was below its starting price, at just £124. The bubble had burst. Thousands of people were financially ruined. Families who had been wealthy were now destitute. Bankruptcies skyrocketed, and the British economy was pushed to the brink of collapse. The public was furious, demanding justice. A parliamentary inquiry was launched, and it uncovered a cesspool of corruption, fraud, and insider trading involving company directors and even high-ranking government officials. Several politicians were disgraced and imprisoned. The South Sea bubble became a legendary cautionary tale. It showed the world the dangers of herd mentality, speculative mania, and the seductive but destructive power of greed. It's a story that has echoed through history, from the tulip mania of the 1600s to the dot-com bust of 2000 and the financial crisis of our own time. It reminds us that when something looks too good to be true, it almost always is. The dream of getting rich quick can easily turn into a financial nightmare. So, what do you think? Have we learned our lesson, or are we destined to repeat the same mistakes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most incredible events. See you in the next video.